It's finally time. After a few months, Bendy and the Dark Revival is finally upon us. And to be completely honest, I wasn't exactly expecting Dark Revival to be announced this year. I thought it had an extra year or two, but hey, now's better than never, am I right? For those who may be new to this channel, I am not the biggest Bendy fan out there, despite me using a Bendy model, I guess. Now, Bendy and the Dead Meme Machine was honestly a really boring experience. Honestly, calling it a horror game is really generous. Now, if you want the full context, you can click the iCard right now, like right there, to watch my video talking about Bendy and the Ink Machine in its entirety. Now, back to the task at hand. Dark Revival is the sequel to Bendy and the Testosterone Machine. And if I'm being honest, I'm not that excited to get into this one. Actually, quite the opposite as a matter of fact. But I'll hold out. Who knows, maybe the Meatly weren't raising everyone's expectations for the past 2 weeks, and maybe, just maybe, Dark Revival can prove itself worthy to be considered a good video game. Well, there's only one way to find out. By watching Let's Players play it and judging my entire opinions off of their footage. So, since this is a new release, I will quickly warn those that plan on purchasing this game for yourself about spoilers, obviously. Yes, I'm going through this game in pretty much in its entirety, just like last time, so please play the game if you are planning on doing so. If not, then please enjoy this video. So, our game begins with a little cinematic showing us Joey's apartment, or at least what's left of it, and the door that everyone's favourite knockoff of Ethan Winters, Henry Stein, went through at the end of the last game. Then, we cut to 1973. Ignore the June part, it's not that important. So, we play as Audrey, an animator working at Archgate Pictures. Now, on the Bendy website, leading up to the release of this game, reveals some prologue context as to what's going on. It was revealed that Archgate bought Joey Juice Studios to revive Bendy or reboot him in some way. So we have a pretty basic intro prologue sequence where Audrey wants a short coffee break, and since this is a horror game, you can bet your sweet ass she is never getting a cup of coffee. We are about to head down the elevator when Wilson from Don't Starve shows up. He talks to Audrey like he's got the horn for her, so we end up in this exhibit for Joey Drew. It talks about him and, you know, the stuff he's accomplished, but obviously, if you've played Bendy and the Ink Machine, we already know who he really is, don't we? His true colours, if you will. Anyway, it's also revealed that he is canonically dead. Of old age, probably. Yeah, he's just dead now. Then we reach a room with the Ink Machine, and Jesus Christ, that thing is tiny. Bro, this is some, like, Pokemon level scaling. You know, like, you'll have a Wailord in-game that's, like, the size of the fucking moon, and then, like, you then have a Wailord that's the size of a goddamn peanut. And just like last time, we need to fetch some items and place them on the pedestals. That being a fetch quest, a Bendy fan's favourite pastime. And luckily, they're all in the previous room, so it isn't that bad. And obviously the ink flow is right next to the pedestals. After that, we're taken to Bendy's cartoon world. We fix this ladder and do some walking forward and pressing E. You learn how to crouch, and you can also open lockers and cabinets and scavenge for supplies. You can't really do much with it just yet, it becomes a little bit more useful later on. We open this security lock and what the dog doing? And we find ourselves in Heavenly Toys from everyone's favourite chapter in the original Bendy and the Ink Machine. We then encounter our first Piper, who we hide from in this miracle station behind us. We then exit and learn that we have a health bar now, and that the healing items like bacon soup are much more useful to us. Now there's a thing I can actually like, they actually gave us a health bar. Well, that's one check mark out of the original Bendy and the Ink Machine that you fixed. Keep it up. We might actually have a good game on our hands here. We then meet up with Allison from the last game, who just appears out of nowhere. She gives a bit of exposition to Audrey about what this place is, and obviously, the rule that everyone apparently has to follow by, beware the ink demon. And that ends the prologue, and we are finally onto Chapter 1, Drawn to Darkness. So we need to find a weapon, and we're on our way to the upper levels of the studio to, well, be a lot safer. On the way, we find this game's version of Argent Cells from Doom 2016. You can upgrade 3 stats, one of which isn't unlocked until later. You have health, stamina, and later, abilities. They do what you'd expect them to do. Health increases max health, stamina increases max stamina, and ability reduces the cooldown on an ability that you get later on. Honestly, I'd recommend just going for health first. Trust me, it'll come in a bit handy later. I'll spoil a little bit. You don't really need to get all of them, honestly. They're hidden across the game, and, you know, requiring a little bit of exploration and thinking. And while that's cool and all, you don't really need to get all of them. I ended the game with 2 health upgrades, 1 stamina, and 1 ability, so you don't really need to get all of them. At least get 2 health upgrades. Anyway, so we continue forward to this lounge area, and it is here where we're introduced to stealth mechanics, as well as our first enemy. The Lost Ones return from Bendy Chapter 5, and instead of just being some random enemy that they decide to throw at the end of the game, they're now the main enemy throughout the entire game. And honestly, I think this is a good change from last time. Really, the only enemy that you really ever dealt with was the Searchers, and then on occasion you dealt with the Butcher Gang. But these guys feel a lot more better as the main enemy throughout this game. They kind of remind me a little bit of the villagers from Resident Evil 4, but not as cool. They can wield weapons now, but honestly, that doesn't really do a whole lot. So yeah, that's pretty much it for these guys. I'm not going to talk about the combat just yet. We have to talk about the stealth first. And speaking of the stealth, this was a thing in the previous game, but for those who actually watched that video, you would know that the whole stealth side of Bendy was, well, I wouldn't really call it stealth in my opinion. This ain't no Metal Gear Solid. It's not like you're gonna be getting a codex call anytime soon. You know, like Snake hops in his box and he's like, "Colonel, I found this ink demon. It's coming after me." You know, something shit like that. And well, probably the thing you want to know is that, was the actual stealth side of Bendy improved? Yeah, kinda. Since you are weaponless, and I did play on the hard skill, by the way, where I'm assuming they do more damage. And whenever you're spotted, you can't really interact with some things, I guess, so you can't really cheese these sections. But honestly, the actual stealth mechanics themselves, it's no Gloomwood. It really isn't no Gloomwood, it's just your basic average of the run baby boo-boo stealth mechanics. You just crouch out of vision, and there were some parts of this game where I was crouched, and it just really felt really questionable on how the fuck they didn't see me. That just makes little to no sense to me. Yeah, I think the stealth was actually improved, but I don't think it's like super engaging or fun. It's just kind of sit here and wait until they go by, and that's it. Just pretty basic baby boo-boo stealth mechanics, like I already said. So once you get done with this, you get your gem pipe and you move on. We now unlock a new ability, and this searcher will be our guinea pig, I guess. It's called Banish. Now with this ability, you can sneak up behind enemies and can banish them while getting some health back, which I did use a little bit here later on. But honestly, I actually kind of found it to be worthless, really. I'll talk about the combat like I said. So after that, we make our way to Animation Alley, probably the first big set piece of this game. It's like a little museum on how the animation process works at Joey Drew Studios. And then you get to the editing booth guy and he's just had enough. And yeah, look, I know, I edit my own videos. I feel you, my guy. I really do. We move on and we meet up with this little Bendy, you know, the character all the white girls fawn over for like 30 minutes. Yeah, you don't need to tell me twice. I already know where this whole deal is going. I've played fucking Kirby. I know what happens with the cute little guy. I know what fucking happens, okay? So we touch hands and then I zap him. Good. I want him dead. He cries like a little bitch and runs away. So I decided to go after him because I want this son of a bitch dead. And we then find this door that says, "Don't knock." And apparently Audrey can't fucking read, so we knock anyway. And this Zoidberg will tell us to find some of his pictures and sends us to the animation room. We need to flip this lever and it is here where the Ink Demon finally makes his first appearance. He has gotten a slight makeover compared to the last game. Honestly, he actually looks a lot more like an actual demon. He actually has the horns, like actual horns. And yes, he also has goat hooves. Yeah, I'm not joking, he has fucking hooves. I think this is a pretty cool makeover. I'm a fan. And then we just dropped into chapter 2. Okay, I know I'm leaving this on a little bit of a cliffhanger here, but we gotta review this chapter real quick. Now, I think chapter 1 is pretty good. It did its job really well. It introduced the stealth nicely, and just a little bit of its combat. Also, the prologue also counts here as well, so yeah. Chapter 1 needed to introduce everything to the player and let me try things out with it, and I think it did it really well. Off to a good start, surprisingly. Alright, let's just get quickly back to the game. I believe we've just entered the Demon's Domain. Okay, so how exactly does Bendy work? Well, in the last game, he would simply either show up for a basic chase sequence, or like in Chapter 3, would occasionally appear, but move at the pace that old people shag, until you were within his vicinity, where he would still move at the pace that old people shag. Now, here he's more of a countdown. You see, your screen will flash to a grey filter, and let you know that the ink demon is coming and you need to hide. If you're caught, then it's game over, and you need to revert to either your autosave or your own save file. And this is where I get to talk about my issue with the save feature. Well, kind of. So, you can now save on a whim, which is nice. There's nothing bad about that. It pretty much encourages save scumming. Now, I know this is probably something that may seem weird, but save scumming in a game like this really kind of removes the consequence of getting caught by Bendy. And I know some of you in the comments go, oh, we just don't abuse it then. Well, it's a stupid argument then, isn't it? Like, what? Do you expect me to play Quickman stage in Mega Man 2 without save scumming? Yeah, I think the save system needs to go back to something more akin to Resident Evil 4, where the save system was like you could save at a typewriter somewhere like in this safe house, but then if you died like a while later, you would be reverted back to that checkpoint. So it felt really punishing if you died there. You know, you could always just go back to that save point and save again. I just kind of wish that the save system was a lot less forgiving. This one seems... I can understand why they did this though, you know, to prevent like game-breaking bugs. I never really encountered many in my playthrough of this game. I only encountered like just one, really. I'll talk about it when I get there. One of them did cause a soft lock, so yeah. So we get the drawings and place them all on the canvas, and this Zoidberg jumps us. Asshole. So now we get into this room with these 3 projectors with numbers on them. Now there's this new door code puzzles where we need to find the code to a door. Now these puzzles usually have the code somewhere, like this one shows the frames in order and you need to memorize it and you get your code. And speaking of puzzles, I guess it's time to ask that question once again. Did they improve the puzzles? Kinda. A lot of the puzzles actually kind of feel like puzzles, but it's honestly just really miss, and then hit on occasion. Like, some of them are really easy, like, you'll just find the answer in one room, and that's what these puzzles sort of feel like. The answer is just on an audio log or something, well, at least that gives it a bit more of a purpose other than just for shit lore that no one gives a shit about, so I guess that's nice. But you'll just find the answer in another room. This one with the frames I kind of liked because you need to match them, you need to memorize it, you actually need to use your brain, which is, you know, probably the one thing you probably need to do for these puzzles. But there are also fetch quests in this game, but there's not exactly a whole lot of them to deal with. Usually the items you need to acquire in a single room, like the room that we were just in earlier. Bendy was an active threat in there, so there was some much needed pressure to it. And starting from that point anyway, Bendy will pretty much just be a thorn in our side for the rest of the game. So we continue forth and we meet this searcher across this chasm, and we lower the pipe to get over to him, and we then find him stuck in a chute. So we set him free, follow him down, we find him again, and this Zoidberg is named Porter, and he gives us a new ability, being this dash which allows us to jump over big chasms, which makes me confused because we never see this character ever again throughout the rest of the game. So it makes me really question, why did they make an entire character sheet for this guy if he's only in the game for like 5 whole minutes? I kind of hope that this character had a bit more of a role in this story, but he really doesn't. I found this dash ability to actually be somewhat more useful than the other ones. We have one more ability to get, but this one won't show up until really late into the game, so we now need to get to the elevator, but first we need to upgrade our gent pipe. So we head inside this locker room that just opened up, where we finally hear from good old Wally Franks. Well, you can't hear him anymore, but at least he's here in spirit. It's another one of those 3-number door code puzzles again. It's a pretty easy one, it's just open the locker to find out what it is. But at least he's here in spirit, you know, you can still see the I'm out of here thing. And speaking of, memos sort of serve as just audio logs, but you now have to read them, and that's it. So we enter and we get the blueprints for our jet pipe upgrade. So this upgrade allows it to charge, and you can now use it to open special doors, and using one of those little batteries you collect, they can be used to open said special doors. And honestly, as long as you're picking up as many batteries as you can, you won't find much problems with these. Also, if you go into this little room, you can find this new Butcher Gang member, this ghost girl character. Honestly, she appears occasionally throughout the rest of the game until a certain point, I think. I think I stopped seeing her by chapter 3, I think, or chapter 4, either one of the two. But yeah, speaking of, I may as well start talking about the scares of this game. I'll be straight up honest with you, the scares were not improved. Really, all they did with the scary factor of this game is just add more jump scares, and that's not really a good thing to have. Jump scares are, let's be honest, they're not scary in the bloody slightest. They probably startle you, but it's just like Five Nights at Freddy's. You get jump scared by one of these things, it's like, oh god damn it. I thought we were done with creepypastas, guys. Like, can we move on? Look, jump scares, they're cheap and lame. Like, you can have jump scares in a game, there's nothing wrong with it, but like the only game that I think has done really good jump scares was probably Cry of Fear. That's like the only game that comes to my mind that genuinely has really good jump scares. Well, I mean, there's also Silent Hill. You know, Silent Hill's just kind of dead because Bloober Team are making the sequel, and that makes me sad. Anyway, so really, bottom of the line, Ghost Girl's just a YouTube bait jump scare character, and let's just move on. We now get to the next part. Also forgot to mention that Bendy has an actual voice now. I don't really know what to think of it. It feels kind of silly, but I don't really mind. Honestly, it just kind of sounds like Nightmare Fuckface from UCN or something. So we get to this place called Artist Rest, which is like some Japanese sleeping capsule hotels, or, you know, a morgue. So we need to get out of here. First, you need to go to the Lost and Found and get these keys, and Bendy will show up in this scripted sequence, and we just need to go back into this room and teleport back through to avoid him. Yeah, that was a pretty lame scripted sequence. Alright, combat. So, was the combat improved? No, it wasn't. The combat is still really boring and dull. I mean, you don't have life regen anymore, so, you know, there's a little bit extra, you know, urgency to it, but... And you may wonder why I'm basically just face tanking them and letting myself die here. Well, it's because of my main problem with this. There's not really much consequence for you dying. You just respawn at like the nearest ink linker or whatever it is. But like the thing is that ink linker is typically usually in the room when you died, just in a safer position so you can't get swarmed again. And it's like, what was the point then? You know, because all the enemies still have the same health as when you left them. So all you have to do is just run back in and fight those enemies again until they die. So instead, the game just now encourages you to face tank these enemies, and now the combat is still exactly the same as the last game. You just walk up to them and just spam left click the entire time, making the combat just feel so dull. And this is where the whole banish thing comes back into play, because as I already mentioned, I found it to be really worthless, and it is. I don't really see much point in getting my health back if I'll just, you know, die and I'll get half of it back for free, you know? I don't really care if I, you know, die quicker because I'm at half health. Point in using the banish if I could just face tank everything like I'm playing Wigfrid and Don't Starve or something. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this area. The lost ones actually do drop items, which does give some incentive to go after these guys, but that's pretty much it. And yeah, by the way, you don't pick up any other new weapons throughout the game. You stick with the gent pipe. So it's basically Half-Life, but you rock the crowbar the entire time. Wow, think about that. You have Gordon Freeman with his crowbar, Adrian Shepard with his mechanical wrench, and now we have Audrey with her pipe. It's like a ever-growing family of melee weapons, I guess. So yeah, combat feels really dull and lacks a lot of depth. I kind of wish that you know, because this is a cartoon. Imagine if one of the lost ones carried some dynamite and would throw it at you. And kind of like in Resident Evil 4, like how Leon can shoot the dynamite out the sky so it damages some of the villagers. Imagine you can knock back the dynamite like it's a baseball. Like, it feels... I think that would give Bendy much needed more identity, keep it within its more cartoony roots, but also feel fun at the same time. I think that'd be cool. I'm just saying. And obviously, if you fail, you lose a bit of your health. Enemy variety is honestly pretty much the same. I'm just gonna drop all the enemies as they, you know, come on by. The last ones are your villagers from Resident Evil 4. Butcher Gang, I honestly did not see them much at all in this game. Pretty much by the time you get to the animation department area, the animation alley area, that's like the last time you'll see them. They're pretty much gone throughout the rest of the game now. These searchers have basically been reduced to, well, fodder enemies now, which is good because, well, I didn't really like them in the original, and the lost ones definitely fit that better enemy role well, but they still feel kinda lame. There is a new enemy type, but we won't see them for a good while now. After this, we head up the elevator, and we conclude Chapter 2. Alright, so Chapter 2. Pretty much wastes no time, and overall, I had a little bit of fun here. Bendy is an actual threat and adds some pressure, and I really like the design of him. I think this is like the peak Bendy design in my opinion. The combat is, well, it is incredibly boring, honestly. It is pretty much exactly the same thing as last time, if I'm being completely honest. Puzzles they're okay. They're basically, just like I said, hit or miss. It's a pretty decent chapter, so let's move on to Chapter 3, The Eternal Machine. So after this, we make our way to the elevator, where something notices we are here, and the elevator ejects itself, and we are out cold for just a moment. We awaken in this little area with these new ink creatures. Honestly, they're a mix of head crabs from Half-Life and face huggers from Alien. They come out of these eggs, like facehuggers, and it feels like you fell into a xenomorph nest. You know, on the topic of a xenomorph, you know, Bendy's new design kinda reminds me of the xenomorph, if you kinda think about it enough. They both don't have eyes, they have a mouth, and that's usually their main method of attacking. Yeah, that's pretty much about it, I guess. So you have to fight these guys to destroy their eggs to prevent them from spawning. Then we have our first boss against a bigger version of these guys. So it's just the Gonarch from Half-Life 1, but without the massive sack under it, unfortunately. Yeah, this boss fight is just walk up and spam left click and then occasionally move back to prevent it from hitting you. It will go on the ceiling to spawn a bunch of the smaller head crabs, so you just face tank them, die, come back, face tank them more, die and come back. Also, you want to be careful here, because if you have low health, it can do a finisher on you, which, like the Ink Demon, will force you to go back. And they actually do lock you out of save scumming here, for boss fights mainly. So it is a little punishing, so my strategy is to obviously just face tank the little enemies, let yourself die so you have more health, and that's pretty much it. The Gonarch dies and we move on to the next area. And by the way, this is going to be the last time you see these guys because they never show up again. They're just gone. They're just here for the moment, and now they're gonzo. We move on to the next area, where we talk with Allison yet again, and she says she's coming after us now. But we move on, and she won't appear until way later into the game, actually. And then we just find Joey Drew, just out of the blue. Yep, he's all of a sudden here now. We follow him into his little room, and he does a little bit of exposition, mainly story bits. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. He then reminds us that, yeah, he is most definitely dead. So now our objective is to head our way to the Gent building, as someone has been tampering with this world, so we need to do some stuff within the sewers. Basically just solve a bunch of pretty basic, boring puzzles. We also have to do this weird mini-boss, I think, against this guy called Lord Amok. You just have to fight two of his goons and then himself, and defeating him will make you the new leader. I did encounter a glitch here, or a pretty game-breaking one, where one of the enemies just stood in place and stopped moving completely. Like, they were just in their walk cycle and they were stuck. I couldn't kill them or anything, they just sort of entered God mode, and I had to revert to my last save. Luckily, I was saving quite a bit, so this wasn't too bad. But this is like the only time this really happened in the game where it actually ended up being soft-locking me. It did happen a second time, but it wasn't soft-locking me, so yeah, that's about it. You then make your way to this ladder and climb up to find this New York City-inspired area, and find that little piece of shit Bendy from earlier. Finally, I get to kill you. Audrey talks with him a little, and now you two are friends. I don't trust you. I'm just saying. I fucking hate you. I would rather want you dead. I'm just saying. And then that concludes chapter 3. Chapter 3 kind of served as an exposition kind of chapter. I didn't really think it was good or bad necessarily. It was just kind of okay, in my opinion. Really, the main thing here is probably Joey Drew's appearance, but other than that, I honestly feel like this chapter's kind of forgettable in the grand scheme of everything. But I guess in terms of like actual story dump, I think it does a decent job at that, I guess. So, now that we have this little goober at our disposal, it's time we talk about chapter 4, The Factory of Horrors. Chapter 4 starts off really nice and probably my favourite area in this game so far. It's a 1920s inspired New York City area, or it could just be an off-brand Raccoon City, I suppose. Oh yeah, and Bendy is also following us around finally. He doesn't really do much, he just sits on things. We're really only here to get inside the Gent building, but to get inside we'll need a key card, so we need to find one. Bendy will just kind of walk around the area and just point at trash cans. Yeah, it's kind of stupid. Like, Bendy, that's not a trash can. That's Five Nights at Freddy's security breach. We then find a key card in this hotel where we're interrupted by Joey once more. And this time he's here to show us something. So we are taken to a recreation of the chapter 1 area from the original Bendy, and Joey tells a quick story. And it's apparently revealed that Audrey is Joey's daughter. Yep, that's just given to us right out of the blue, no build-up, no foreshadowing, but Audrey actually came from the ink machine itself. Yeah, so after that bombshell, we grab our key card and head for the Gent building. Also, Bendy has left us now. I knew he was a little piece of shit. And he won't be our friend for pretty much the rest of the game. Lol. Yeah, get bent to those that actually thought he was going to be our friend throughout the majority of the game. We get to the Gent building, only to get jumped by the ink demon, but these generators turn on, and Bendy turns out to be the little one. So, ha! I knew it! I fucking told you that it would be some Kirby level shit! I fucking told you! Honestly, Bendy being the ink demon just kind of reminds me of the Devil Shivers when I turn angry meme or something. Yeah, it's just, that's it. Now we enter the Gent building itself and we meet our last enemy type, being the Keepers from the Binding of Isaac. They have like these Bioshock-esque designs. I mean, you can't really tell me that these guys don't look like Big Daddy or something. This one tries to gas us, but we escape, and it's back to stealth, because these guys are basically unkillable. You only have to do like 2 rooms of stealth, so yeah. It's also here where we get our final ability, that being a fast travel, and this one is completely useless, at least for me anyway. I mean, it has its uses, I'm just saying I didn't use it pretty much at all, really. But it does seem to be taking some notes from a specific subgenre of video game based on 2 games that basically made that subgenre a thing. And, well, instead of being, you know, opening an entire new area for you to explore, along with a lot of sub-areas, it's really just opening just a single hallway with a dead end with some food and maybe like an extra item or something. Really, it's not that interesting, and like I already said at the beginning of the video, most of the optional stuff isn't really worth it anyway. You're better off just probably ignoring this, but it's still cool nonetheless. Honestly, I think that this could be fully fleshed out and we could actually get a, hear me out for a sec, a Bendy Metroidvania. It sounds dumb, I know, but just, you know, I'm just gonna leave the idea out there on paper for you all to eat up, I guess. We also get that ability from this character, Heidi, who's another Porter character. We just play hide and seek with her, a door opens and she gives us the ability and she fucks off. Just like Porter, what was the point in doing this? You were better off just giving me the ability. I didn't really have to do your dumb hide and seek bullshit. Stop wasting my time. Stop wasting my time. Look, we then go through this door, we almost get gassed yet again, but we make it out. And now we're in this area, which it's basically just the remember these cool things area. You have Norman Polk's head, you have Sammy Lawrence and Alice, well, what's supposed to be Alice Angel. You know it's Alice Angel because 1, you can see the text on the floor, and 2, both of these subjects, being Sammy and Alice, both represent the respective release dates. So Sammy came out in April, and obviously Alice came out in September of that year. And then we have Subject 414, and surprise, surprise, Henry Stein, yes, Stein, makes his grand return, and he actually had a face reveal. Yes, he actually has a face now. He tells us about, like, how to stop the ink demon with the end film reel, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, also in this room, I found this. You're welcome. We make our way to the pit, which is where the end film reel is held, but we are stopped by a keeper, and kidnaps Audrey. Then Audrey finds herself on a subway train, so we're just recreating the intro to Half-Life 2 now, okie dokie, and we finally meet up with Wilson, who takes Audrey to his mansion or hotel. He does a little monologue about life created in this world or something, and with that we finally conclude Chapter 4. The combat for this chapter, anyway, takes a bit of a backseat for more stealth, and honestly, I prefer the stealth over the bare-bones combat for previous chapters. Overall, I honestly didn't really find this one all that entertaining. It really just felt like 2 rooms with 1 keeper in each of them, and there you go, the chapter was pretty much over. I really like this city setting, but it's only there for like 5 minutes. We got some story whiplash and, you know, some nostalgia pandering for the Bendy nerds out there. And, well, we only have 1 chapter to go with. 1 chapter to finally end this all and see if Bendy and the Dark Revival can actually pull Bendy out of this YouTube jump scare bait horror game hellhole. So, let's finish things off with Chapter 5, The Dark Revival. Roll credits. So we now go to Wilson's place. Our abilities are actually disabled at this point, which isn't that bad considering they're almost useless. We discover the absolute shocker of a lifetime, that he did not in fact kill the ink demon. Whoa, who would have seen that coming? Yeah, pretty much throughout the entire game, he kind of paints himself as this character. I did it, I killed the ink demon. Like, dude, who gives a shit? Like, oh, look at me, I killed a demon, ha ha ha. Yeah, bitch, I played Doom Eternal, I've killed like 10 million fucking demons. I killed the fucking icon of sin, son of a... Eat that, you little piece of shit. And we also meet this new character, called Betty, that gives us a quick tour of the location. She also talks about the North Wing, like Alex Vance talking about Ravenholm, so I can tell you right now that we're gonna be going there, aren't we? So we do some walking around and try to grab a fish out of a bowl, and an admittedly pretty funny gag, where the piano makes the fish fall asleep.
That did it. Looks like the fish is asleep.
We then head back to our room, and after taking 3 sips, Alice Angel shows up. Yeah, just out of fucking nowhere, and kidnaps us. Places us on an electric chair, and we need to solve a riddle puzzle. Finally, a puzzle that I actually like. This one actually made me think a little bit, actually. You need to talk to these NPCs, and I'll give you hints you'll need to use. We need to fight Alice Angel, who now wields the Tommy gun from the last game. You simply need to avoid her by taking cover. This fight's over rather quickly, honestly. If you could even call it a fight, it's more of a mini-boss if you will, because you can't even fucking fight her. You then try to banish her, but she stops you, and before she pulls the trigger and blasts your head off, and then she gets stabbed in the chest, again, by Allison. Again. Tom returns once more, and you can also pet him, so yeah, this game's already getting a 10 out of 10. You can pet the dog. Allison talks about getting some friends to help out with Audrey, and yeah, these 2 are pretty much gone for the rest of the game. She goes to find Wilson to see what he's up to in his little lab. Allison takes the Tommy gun, and Audrey sets off. There is another stealth section here. It isn't really anything special. There's nothing new to really sink your teeth into. It's just that you need to find these 2 pieces of this music box so that you can bait the 2 keepers that are guarding the exit to that music box so you can escape. Yeah, there's pretty much nothing else to this stealth section. It's just Honestly, just pretty much senseless padding, really. Betty stops us and wants us to do a quick favor, a fetch quest. We just need to get some ingredients at the farmer's market. This doesn't really feel like anything, it just feels like senseless padding. It's not really anything special, so I'm just gonna move on. So now we go to the laboratory to confront Wilson. It's revealed that his plan is to create a rival character for Bendy, this random-ass sailor character. He needs Audrey to help, and by help, I mean sacrifice herself, in order to make this the perfect character. Audrey obviously declines, and Wilson tries to force her inside, only for Audrey to shove Wilson inside as she looks away as he gets cut to bits. Really, Audrey? I wanted to see some gore. I don't care, this ain't no kid's game. This is a man's game. It's like Kirby, but not cool. You can also see the aftermath once it's all done and over with. Then we head downstairs and fight the final boss of this game, Ship Ahoy Dudley. Design-wise, looks cool. Actual fight itself is fine. Probably the only decent boss fight in this game. You need to bait it into attacking the generators and shut it off. Phase 2 will have you punch the wall and then use his anchor to attack. You just need to fight it when it's, the window is open. Pretty simple. Hit it in the guts until it dies. Then Ship Ahoy Dudley rips your legs off. Like, you actually hear the bones snapping inside you. Like, bro, Audrey just got Anakin Skywalker, what the hell? Then Bendy comes in and finishes off Ship Ahoy Dudley, then approaches Audrey, consumes her, and starts quoting Venom. This game is gonna sell 1 trillion goddamn copies. We now see things in Bendy's perspective as he's transformed into Beast Bendy again. Joey's also here again and tries to convince Audrey to fight back, like where he just tries to use the power of friendship in order to save Audrey. And Bendy just fucking kills Joey right there and then and just tosses him in the ink again, and then Audrey's like, no, and then just picks up the end reel, and then, yeah, we finally move on to the last part of the game, which, by the way, that last part of the game is a sudden occurrence, and we now get to play as Beast Bendy, in, like, this section that, feels like the Warthog run from Halo 3, just not as cool. I mean, like, as the novelty, it is pretty cool to play as Beast Bendy and all that, but I do feel that one thing that they clearly missed on was some kick-ass music playing in the background as you're just smashing through everything. So I've decided that I'm gonna waste like 3 minutes of this video playing some kick-ass music in the background while you get to watch me play, Beast Bendy. Honestly, nothing really happens that's super important, that's really worth pointing out. Other than, it's just a nice little way to end this game. Once the music's done, we'll probably talk about the other stuff I missed out on, so please enjoy the next 3 minutes of this stuff. Alright, so we're pretty much about done with Bendy. There's two things I would like to talk about before we finish everything off. First is going to be the graphics, and then second, the story of Dark Revival. So let's talk the graphics. It's no surprise that Bendy and the Ink Machine's main selling point was its visual department, and I'm not exactly too surprised that Dark Revival also has a good visual department. Honestly, out of everything that needed to be improved with Dark Revival, this was probably the lowest thing on the list. And yeah, it was probably the thing that got the most treatment, which, well, take of that or what you will. So, moving on, we now have to talk about the big story. Yes, the story, because as much as I don't care for stories in these kinds of games, I kind of have to do it because this isn't a fan game, unfortunately. So, what did I think of the story? Well, I don't really feel anything for it. I could definitely see what it's trying to go for here, like I could definitely see it, but it's really just brought down by a lot of pacing issues and all of that. Like, I do feel like this game was supposed to be something much bigger, but because of certain things, it never really ended up being the game that it really wanted to be, which, that happens. I do really think that characters like Audrey could have been much better if she had a bit more, thought, about her past and all of that, instead of just la-di-da-di-da, I'm a little animator, please don't hurt me, ooh, whatever the fuck. Wilson, as an antagonist, just, I don't know, he doesn't feel interesting. He basically just sits in his computer lab until the end of the game, and then he gets killed. And that's it. Like, he doesn't really feel that threatening of a villain. He just talks on the intercom and is like, Audrey, and it's just like, dude, if you want Audrey so bad, just come get it yourself, you creep. Honestly though, like, in terms of actual lore, I didn't really feel a lot of stuff was just deliberately left on a loose end, if you will. Well, I mean, there probably was something, and I probably just didn't pay attention to it, because, well, if you've been on my channel, you know already, I said it earlier even, that I just don't give a shit about lore. It's stupid, it's dumb, and I just want this shit to stop. But it probably won't because, someone has to get all this map pack fishing content in, I guess. But yeah, overall though, I didn't really feel anything for the story. It was okay. I could definitely see it being interesting enough, but I don't think they managed to nail that interesting side. So it just kind of feels a bit in my opinion. Well, I believe that will wrap everything up. So, I believe that finally finishes everything off. I believe that we now have one more thing to talk about, and then we can finally lay this game to rest, and I can go do something productive that isn't playing stupid little baby boo-boo horror games made for toddlers. Well, it's finally come to that time. It's time I finally give you the source. Did I like Bendy in the Dark Revival? And well, though I am covering a game that recently just released, and it seems I may have an interesting opinion about it. Guess that means...
Well, I'm dead.
Okay, all jokes aside, I don't think this game is good, and I don't think it is bad, but I don't really think it's mediocre either. It just seems to be barely above that level, or just, I don't know, maybe under it. I think Dark Revival to me just feels like the developers have learned their lessons, but I feel like that they haven't done enough to really prove that they have. I can see, like, you can play the game for yourself, and you can tell that it feels, or at least what the things that they set out to do, they definitely know that they exist and they want to make a cool game. But my only issue with that is that I feel like that they've done the bare minimum here. Whereas opposed to, improving the combat, like, in a massive way, introducing all this depth and stuff to it. Instead, it just feels like that they just plunked a bit more enemies down and called it a day. Honestly, considering the amount of times you end up fighting something in this game, I think we may as well just put the werehog fight theme over every single enemy encounter in this game. It would probably make the combat much more annoying. But hey, at least you got some cool music to play in the background. the enemy variety is just pretty much the same outside of the head crabs and the keepers later on, but they're only here for their own specific chapters. I kind of wish they would end up being more bigger enemies into the game, you know? Or, you know, since these characters are made of ink, and it seems like ink is sort of like a clay kind of thing in this universe, you can mutate the fuck out of them. Make them look gross, make them look disgusting, make them look disturbing. I want to see more of that, please. Like, considering that the ink is sort of like the Flood from Halo, when are we gonna get an ink version of the Grave Mine from Halo 2? Like, you know, you walk into like this big room and you just see like this giant ink monster just come out and it has like this spooky voice like the Grave Mine does in Halo 2. That would be a set piece. Like just hear me out, Meatly. That would be a set piece. I think Dark Revival, to me, I know probably to some of you may say, oh, it's another mediocre game, and well, that is kind of true. It, like, as a game, I feel like it blunders, but I feel that it is a good direction for Bendy. I feel like that this is really a game of putting Bendy on the right track. The Meatly just want to sort of, okay, this is what we have in store, what do you think? You know, kind of that thing. I think that this, I don't know, I wouldn't go into this game expecting like a big, you know, survival horror game. Just kind of go into it expecting it as a demo kind of game. You know, a sort of demonstration of what's to come from the series. And, well, if this is the direction that Bendy wants to go in, you know, obviously improving upon the depth that the combat seems to lack and all of that, I think this might be pretty good. But then again, I'm only focusing on what the game could be as opposed to what it is. And, well, if I'm focusing on what it is, yeah, it's just not that good. So, there we go. There's Bendy and the Dark Revival finally taken care of, and I can finally go do something else. I'm pretty sure Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have just come out, and I've already seen most of the glitches. Apparently, I saw a Jigglypuff fly away, and I kind of want to see that for myself. So, yeah, I'll probably be picking up those games sometime. Let's just get my product shilling done and over with. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It does a massive help to my channel. We are on the road to 2K. We are very close. We are just under 1K left. Join the not cool kids club, I guess, and subscribe. You can also follow me on my Twitter if you want to. I don't usually use it that often. And by the way, I'm cool because I haven't gotten a blue check mark yet, so I'm still a part of the cool kids club. So you can follow me there. Well, you can join my Discord server. It kind of exists, you know? So, what's my final verdict on Bendy and the Dark Revival? Just play BioShock.